70% of Republicans in Arizona think the election was stolen and fraudulent.
Right.
I feel
but
like
you understand that's crazy.
What I've done
said you're still investigating.
We've run a lot of the stuff to ground.
And when you get it to ground, will you come out and say Donald J. Trump is wrong? The election in Arizona was fair, not stolen, and not fraudulent.
I've always been a straight shooter, and once all the facts and evidence are in, John, come on, man.
So why can't you say the election in 2020 was not stolen or fraudulent?
I will tell you this, as I said.
This is blowing my mind.
That was Arizona's former Attorney General, Mark Brnovich, in an interview with Jon Stewart a week before the 2022 midterms. And you can see Brnovich went out of his way not to refute Trump's claims of a stolen election. His office was even investigating those claims. At the end of that interview, Brnovich made a promise.
When you're ready to release the report, when will that be? Do you know?
Sooner rather than later, I hope.
Great. Will you go out and vehemently debunk all those issues as vehemently as needed?
Absolutely.
Mr. Brnovich said that as soon as his office was done investigating, he would go out and debunk any false election fraud claims as vehemently as necessary. The only problem is that it turns out Mr. Brnovich's office had already debunked those claims months before that interview. Thanks to newly released documents from the Arizona Attorney General's office, we now know that 7 months before Brnovich sat down for that interview with Jon Stewart, investigators in his office had already put together their report on election fraud, a report which the Washington Post notes found virtually all claims of error and malfeasance were unfounded. But Mark Brnovich did not release that report. Instead, he put out a much shorter report the following month, claiming his office had discovered serious vulnerabilities in the election system and left out edits from his own investigators that refuted his assertion. The newly released documents also show how Brnovich tried to undermine his own investigators' findings and how those investigators pushed back. For instance, in one draft of the report, Brnovich's office wrote, "The current election system in Maricopa County involving the verification and handling of early ballots is broke." But the investigators responded, "We did not uncover any criminality or fraud having been committed in this area." In that same draft, Brnovich's office also wrote that Arizona's largest voting district, Maricopa County, had been combative and litigious in response to the investigation. Investigators replied, again, saying, "Based upon our experiences, Maricopa County was cooperative and responsive to our requests." Now, the reason we know all of this is because Arizona voters chose to elect a new attorney general, a Democrat, Kris Mayes, in the midterm election. Mayes' office released the documents showing what Brnovich withheld from the Arizona public. She has vowed to stop wasting taxpayer dollars on investigating conspiratorial claims about voter fraud and instead focus on issues including protecting the right to vote and preventing threats against election workers. Joining us now is Arizona Democratic Attorney General Kris Mayes. Madam Attorney General, thank you for joining us. Could you please divulge how you found these documents? Were they in a shoebox, in a storage closet, or where were they?
Hi, Alex. Well, it's great to be with you. They were not in a shoebox. It did take some time to find these documents. You know, we obviously, like much of the country, wanted to know whether that final report by my predecessor had ever been prepared. So we went through a process of looking internally in our systems at the Attorney General's office, speaking with our amazing investigators. I must say I'm very proud of the job that our agents and investigators did on the investigation. The unfortunate part, as you noted, is that my predecessor, Mark Brnovich, failed to and chose not to put out their good work that debunked all these conspiracy theories that proved that we have fair and free and secure elections in the state of Arizona, totally clearing Maricopa County officials of any wrongdoing. That information, those 3 reports that you talked about, should have been released before the 2022 election. The people of Arizona had a right to know that information, and the people of this country had a right to know that information.
I know the investigators that you talked about spent 10,000 hours working on this. Do you have any idea how much these hidden investigations cost the people of Arizona? I mean, it seems like it was a good thing that they investigated it and found what they did, but the fact that the Attorney General at the time, Brnovich, buried them seems like a colossal waste of taxpayer dollars.
It was a terrible waste of taxpayer dollars. We haven't been able to put an exact dollar figure on those 10,000 man and woman hours, but I will tell you this: it distracted the Attorney General's office from fighting real crime and real fraud. And here's what I think is truly sad and terrible about this situation is that, these reports were sitting there. They were ready to be released. They should have been released. And at that very same time, as you know, elections officials in Arizona were being threatened. They were being harassed. They were the subject of death threats. We had county officials who were the subject of death threats. And we had an attorney general in the form of my predecessor who could have poured cold water on all these conspiracy theories and maybe have put an end to some of those threats and harassment. And, going forward, what I want to do is protect our elections officials, protect democracy, obviously, and protect voting rights in the state of Arizona.
Do you have a theory? I mean, you rightly point out that this wasn't just about the paper. This was about people, about the lives of human beings that were under threat. Do you have a theory about why he wouldn't come clean about what his investigators found?
I just don't know. And I guess I've got to leave that up to everybody to decide. I think, my predecessor will have to answer those questions for himself. But it was certainly a disservice to not just the state of Arizona, to the voters of Arizona, but also to the voters of this country. We have fantastically run elections in the state of Arizona, and that information should have been made available to all the people of this state. And going forward, we're going to be honest and transparent with the people of Arizona and this country, and this kind of thing will not happen again here.
I know we're talking about the road forward here, so I'd love to know whether you have any plans to investigate that not one but two sets of fake electors that tried to effectively undermine democracy and the will of the people in Arizona in the course of the 2020 election. We know there is a robust investigation happening in Georgia. Do you envision anything similar in the state of Arizona?
Yeah, and I have said in the past and announced that we are going to investigate the fake electors. I think that what I'm going to take very seriously going forward and looking backward is any attempt to systemically undermine American democracy and democracy in the state of Arizona. And so I've said that we're going to do that investigation. The other thing that I'm going to do is repurpose the elections investigation unit, the election integrity unit, and make it a unit that is designed to protect voting rights in Arizona, and a unit that will protect elections officials against these death threats. And I've been very clear that I will prosecute anyone who engages in death threats against elections officials in the state of Arizona, because our democracy absolutely depends on having good people come forward and be willing to be elections officials and carry out our elections in the state of Arizona.
Well, we are very much looking forward to your findings about the two sets of fake electors in Arizona, given where this country is at in the election we are headed towards in 2024. Arizona Democratic Attorney General Kris Mayes, thank you so much for your time tonight. Happy hunting in the rest of Mark Brnovich's office.
Thanks, Alex.